The auto sorter is one of the best redstone contraptions to have in your Minecraft world. They are super compact, they are super easy to make, and they are totally stackable. Welcome back to Redstone 101. My name is Lane, and today's episode is going to be all about auto sorters. Before we get started, I just want to give a big shout out to Empress Littlebit, who did all of the artwork that has been featured so far in Redstone 101 and featured across pretty much my entire channel. I don't think I would have really started this series had she not have been able to make the artwork for me, because I had this whole thing envisioned and I feel like her art style just fit perfectly. So a big thank you to Empress Littlebit for all the work that she has done, and you guys be sure to go check out her content. The link will be in the description below. And now back to the video. So what is an auto sorter? Well, an auto sorter, it does just that. It automatically sorts any items that you put into the sorter itself. There are some more advanced ones that sort more than one item into a chest, but the ones that we're going to be looking at today are going to be the more simple ones that sort one item at a time. So let's talk about the materials that are necessary to actually make this thing. So the auto sorter requires 2 or 3 hoppers depending on which method you're going to be using. I'm going to be showing both methods that I personally use in this video. You'll need 1 comparator, 1 redstone repeater, 1 redstone torch, and 3 redstone dust. Now this is going to be per slice, so if you're planning on expanding this farm to sort multiple items, then you are going to need to account for that accordingly. And now I'm going to show you how to actually build this. So I'm just going to show you the base way of doing it with just 1 chest, and then you can expand upwards should you need to, and I will show you that later. But I'm going to build this just a couple blocks higher just for the sake of this video. And so you'll start by placing a chest. You'll place a hopper facing into that chest, and then you will place 3 blocks right behind that hopper, and you'll place 1 directly below it. And then you will place a redstone torch right here. And then you will place another block here and a repeater facing into the block that's holding that torch. You will then place another block right there behind it. So it should make this shape that you see on screen now. And then you will place a comparator facing this direction from where the hopper is. And you will run redstone dust all the way down to that block like so. And then you'll place 1 more hopper on top of this, but you want it facing into this comparator. You'll know it's doing that when you see the funnel here facing that direction. As you can see, building this thing is actually relatively simple, and I will explain to you what everything does momentarily, but first I want to show you how to set the actual filter. So in the hopper that is facing the comparator is where you're going to set the filter. Right here, you will put in the block that you want to filter, and that in this instance is going to be the oak planks. So you can see that the hopper is already draining, and you're going to want to put 4 other blocks in the spots directly behind it. And you can see that once it reaches 41, this will stop. So what you have to keep in mind is this hopper is going to be holding 45 items total. This comparator actually reads how much is in here, and it sends out a redstone signal here that kind of tells this to lock this hopper. So nothing else goes through unless there's more in this than the 45 blocks that is total. Now it is important to put in blocks back here that you will not be using at all in the actual sorter itself. So let's say for instance I expand this out and it's all wood. Well, you would consider adding in stone or something else in here. Typically, I make mine out of netherrack because I never built with netherrack anyway. So in this instance, I'm just using bedrock because why not? But yeah, that's basically kind of the gist of it. Now you're probably wondering, why don't we just take this out and we add, say, 11 pieces of the bedrock in here and then 1 piece of the plank in here. So there's 44 pieces of the other item and then 1 piece of the actual item you're sorting. Well, that does work, but if you expand this out further, there will be problems with it and it will eventually not work. So the easiest way to do it is by actually doing it the way that I just showed you. And you can see that the other blocks here have filtered into this chest, and there was one that stayed in this hopper. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but That's usually not too big of an issue. There is no real reason for that. But yeah, that's basically all there is to this. So now let's talk about why this works the way that it does. So essentially what is happening is this comparator here, it reads exactly how much is in the storage container in front of it. Now the comparators, they can do this with anything that holds items in front of it, you know, altogether. So it can do that with chests, it can do that with this, it can even read the state of cake and things like that as well. And essentially what it does is it reads the amount that is in here, and it will output a signal that is corresponding with that amount. Not to say that if there's like 45 blocks in here, the signal strength will be 45 blocks long. It does not work that way. But it will put out a signal that corresponds to that. And the 45 blocks that are in there corresponds exactly with how much is here in terms of the redstone dust, and it will turn on all of this and will lock the hopper, and in turn make it only sort that one item. Now let's say that you wanted to expand this downwards. You didn't quite need just one chest, you needed multiple chests. That is perfectly doable. What you can do is you can place more chests underneath it, and then more hoppers facing into it. So if I go ahead and I place this in here, and then do this, and then I'll take those planks out and then put those back in, you'll see that it goes ahead and starts sorting here, and instead of getting caught in here, well, there is one in here for whatever, oh, no, never mind, that came out of that hopper. But the rest of them will start getting sorted down here. And it will start filling up from the bottom all the way up, kind of like a normal cup or something like that would. And you can add double chests into this to make that work as well, and you can really kind of make this as tall or as little as you would like. But there is one disclaimer to this. The more hoppers you add into this system, the laggier your world might end up being. So if you're playing on a multiplayer world, that is something you need to consider. And if you're playing in a single player world and your computer is not very beefy at all, that is also something else to consider as well. I've got a bad tendency of building way too big of a storage system in my worlds and then wondering why my worlds lag like they do. But it is what it is. That is just a nice disclaimer that I felt like I should definitely add in here. Let's talk about those two different methods that I had mentioned earlier. So there is the common method, which is just adding in a string of hoppers over that set of hoppers. Obviously, if you're worried about lag, this might be something to consider not doing. But you can essentially put in a string of hoppers over it and start dropping your items in through like an input device up here. Like if you have a chest on top of it, like so, you can go ahead and drop in a few different items here, and you'll see that it goes ahead and starts feeding them through the sorter itself. And I went ahead and I sorted these ones as well. So there's oak logs, and then there's spruce logs here. And you'll see that I've got the spruce logs here, the oak logs here, and then the actual oak planks here. And you can see that it had sorted itself out and it didn't mess with any of the other hoppers. Now let's say that I put in an item that is completely unknown to this filter system, like these birch logs, for instance. Let's say I put those in there. It's not going to mess with any of these. You can see that these filters are still here, that there's no birch logs in any of these chests down here, and it goes all the way until it reaches a random chest or wherever on the outside. So it is important to have a backup chest for all of your junk or anything that is not meant for this sort of thing. Now in my solely survival world, I have one that is kind of running in a giant square with a water tube over it, which is going to be the method that I show you next. So method number 2 is going to be the water tube method. And I know this looks like a giant mess right now, but it is actually really simple. So essentially, instead of having the string of hoppers across the top like you did in method 1, you basically just have water going over the top of it instead, which actually kind of helps minimize the lag a little bit because there's not so many hoppers flowing around. But now let's say that I drop in these logs like so. Well, let me grab some random birch planks here. Okay, so you can see that if I drop those in here, they go across the top and they get picked up into this last one here, which is the one that's not filtered. And then let's say that I grab these oak planks here. Oh, let me make sure I grab a couple of them. and throw them in. They move across the top and they get picked up here. The issue with this is that sometimes they get picked up towards the end. So what I tend to do with this is I make a bit of a looper for it, so the water kind of curves back around until it gets picked up. And that seems to work pretty well. I don't really have too much of an issue with it doing, anything like that. So you can see in the chests and in the other hoppers that nothing else got clogged up, and everything still kind of works as it should. The method that I prefer is going to be this method here, but I recommend doing this if you know a thing or two about actually making these water tubes and making them kind of circle around and things like that. So now we're going to talk about a more advanced version of method 2, which is one that I personally use in my Solo Survival series, and that is basically connecting up this dropper to feed into a water tube that shoots the items up and feeds them into the sorter itself. Now, it is also important to have a block over this so the items don't go flying out of the thing. But you can see there's one problem that we have here, and that is the fact that the water stops flowing about 8 blocks from the source block, so it doesn't reach all the way over to here. Well, there is an easy fix for that. So what you'll do is you will place a sign or something here to stop the water flow, and then you will grab your packed ice and you'll place it directly underneath it. So essentially what happens is when a block flows over it, it will continue to go over that ice. And if you have another bucket of water right there in front of it, you'll see that it can pick up and then go right on over to where it's supposed to. So you can see that I've got it there, and it goes over, it gets into the hopper, and then it's in this chest. And that's basically all there is to that. But how do you get the dropper working to actually get this thing functioning the way that I just described it? Well, that's actually fairly simple. So let me just grab the redstone pieces here. Alright, so I've got the redstone pieces together here to actually fire this thing up, but before we do, I just want to say that the dropper has to be facing into the bubble column. To make a bubble column, you'll get a piece of soul sand, and you'll have water source blocks all the way up until you reach the top where you're wanting it to be, and then it'll start flowing on out like that. And you'll see the bubbles form. When you see that, you know it's working. Now, to actually get the dropper working, you'll see that I still got the 16 oak planks in here, and you know that there's something in there because this is lit up like that. So you'll place the comparator facing away from the dropper. You'll take one redstone repeater and you will face it into the dropper like this on this side of it, or on any other side of it. It depends on how you wire it up. And then you'll take another repeater and you'll take it this way, so it's coming right out of the comparator. You'll take redstone dust and then just place it around like this, and you will see how it starts flashing. This is because it is making a clock based out of the items that are in the dropper. Now you'll see that I haven't connected it up to this repeater yet, and that is why it's not spitting anything out. But this clock here is important because this will only run when there are blocks in here. So you'll see if I take the blocks out, it stops running. If I put them back in, it'll start lighting back up again. And once you place the redstone dust here, it will start spitting them out, and it starts getting picked up by the sorter. If the sorter starts moving a little too fast, you'll see that one might escape all the way across into here. But all 16 happen to get picked up here. And that's basically the method that I use, but in the event of things not getting picked up the first time, I actually link mine up to where it kind of keeps circling around, and it basically just drops right back into here, and it just keeps going until it does get picked up. Though I don't really have too much of a storage issue in the area that I've got all that set up. I just felt like being extra when I set it up. Obviously, your needs will differ. Alright, that's it for me today, folks. If you enjoyed today's video, please show your support by liking the video and commenting down below if you thought it was helpful, and if you have any suggestions on what I should be showing you next. And subscribe to the channel if you are new, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any more future content. My name is Lane, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, everybody!